Hello there folks, and how is it going? And welcome back to another video, and welcome to the beautiful coastline of Portugal. Now, it would be remiss of us to have, taken Druss out for our first little mini adventure and not visit the coast, and of course not take you lovely folks with us as well. We are north of Nazaré, so here's hoping Orla doesn't wreck her other knee. And we have a few photographic opportunities to take advantage of at this particular place. The tide is on its way out. Now, in the bottom of the frame there, you can probably see some kind of dark patches and the rocks basically getting revealed as the tide is on its way out. We've got some beautiful haze and mist heading south, and it's really adding beautiful atmosphere to the scenes. And then behind us, we also then have a lighthouse, which I hope to take advantage of as well and take a nice photograph of. And as an added bonus, there's a couple of surfers in there in the water. So we have loads of photography opportunities to play with today. So it is overcast and dull. We create our own kind of dynamic scenes using motion, water and shutter speeds and all that kind of wonderful stuff. But if Orla swings around to the horizon there is the tiniest of gaps out there on the horizon. And all going well, the sun is, I was using photo pills earlier, and the sun is set there at that particular point. So if it does, then you never know, we may get some nice light just when it really, really matters. But for now, we are going to just head down the stairs, have a nice amble along the beach, take our time, there's no panic, and just enjoy the evening and take some nice photographs. So let's get going. So folks, you join me at the water's edge, where you start to play the game of how close to the water is too close to the water. Realistically, I want to get a little bit closer because I want to try and use the water as it comes in and out as more of a leading line throughout the frame. So the frame that I'm looking at right now, I've essentially just got all of this kind of blank space between me, the sandbank is in front, and then I've got this beautiful kind of arc of water that comes in, and then the misty kind of cliffs off in the distance. And for me, it's too blank in the middle, and I would like to try and keep it a little bit wider. I do have my 100 to 400 on, but when I swap to, say, a landscape orientation, it's not as bad. And there's a couple of people there as well that I can kind of like, hope they don't move, which they're fishermen, so they don't tend to move a great deal. And right now I've got my 3-stop on. I'm sitting at an 1/8 of a second, f14, and if any of these pictures turn out to be any good, I'm going to pop them up on the screen for you right now.
Welcome friends to the ASMR Photography Studio, and welcome to the first image in this week's video. Now, as a surprise to us all, we start our seascape adventures in black and white, and I am absolutely delighted with how this particular image turned out. that wonderful sea haze off in the distance, shrouding that person as they meander their way along this colossal coast. Then followed along by this wonderful leading line as the foamy mass of sea crashes on the sand. I am delighted with how this image turned out, and as you know, I do enjoy some black and white photography, and it is a path that I am continuously playing around with and learning on. But for me, I feel like I've really hit a nice kind of balance of tones and tonality in this image. So super duper delighted with how this particular one turned out, and a wonderful start to an absolutely fantastic day.
So a tip that you can do when photographing scenes like this, and the ones that you would have just saw, it's always nice to set your shutter to continuous shooting, just because you never know, waiting for that kind of like 2-second delay or anything along those lines. While you can try your best to anticipate what the wave will do, you have no idea what the wave is actually gonna do because it's a wave. So it's better off, and I've said it a million times, just rattle off a bunch of pictures, and then that way then you can kind of like pick which one you fancy after the fact, and like the ones that you would have just seen. But for now, I'm really loving the scene. It's so moody, and I hope I was able to convey that in my classic ASMR photography lab. But even looking behind us now, I think I may need to turn around, because the rocks that are starting to kind of be discovered as the tide is pulling away have really started to come out a little bit now, so I may get my feet wet and take advantage of some of that wonderfulness. So let's spin around and see what we can do. So it's always wonderful when you do shoot pictures like that with continuous, and then you review at least one or two of them, and you see just one or two that are like, oh yeah, I like that one, I like that one. That's one beautiful thing about photographing the sea like this. It's just because it changes so immediately and forever. Everything you do is always just so unique and so wonderful. And I really particularly like this. This frame might look a bit better when the lighthouse is actually on. But then we might lose a bit of the water because the tide is gone out, but we will just wait and see what happens. I'm very, very tempted to kind of get into the water a bit more to try and fill a bit more of the frame, but we'll see. But for now, absolutely having a wonderful time. And even though there's no sunshine and it's all overcast, such is the way of things, but we can change that by making our images look the best they can with the equipment that we have. Let's keep shooting. So, as well as rattling off your pictures, as the water comes up a bit closer, you have to just be so mindful. And again, look, I've been here for ages now, photographing this wonderful coastline. There's people shouting up there for some mad reason. You have to be so mindful when you photograph the coast, and on any coast, just because it's water and it does its own thing. So, nice and easy going. Now I can see some rocks. I don't know if you can see them, Orla, as the wave is coming in. So I could potentially use them as like a steady ground for my tripod to see if I can kind of stand there and get a bit more of a kind of dynamic shot. So maybe I'll give the camera to Orla and go out with the tripod alone. Or I'll just go out now, hold on. It might be slippy. They're not high enough, but it's amazing looking. All right, let's see what we can do. It's always worth it. Don't do what Donnie does, don't, folks. The hard part is tweaking the composition so you can get it just right. And I'm like way underexposed. And I'm sinking. At least my feet are getting clean. Full times. Oh, look at it, it's even zoomed right in here now. Let's give that another go. Shoot! Alright, okay. It's now, I literally have one camera, that's all I have. But that was wonderful. So look, as long as a one taker as that one is, I'm gonna pop up the pictures if any of them turn out to be any good, and we'll have a look then.
So this is the result of the manicness that was photographing next to the sea so close. Now, as a stark contrast to that black and white image, I processed this one a bit more kind of stylized because I wanted it to act as a nice contrast to that black and white image. But overall, really happy with how this particular one turned out and how it looks, and generally just how it feels. For me, it really captures that wonderful energy that we were experiencing when we were there, and of course then the beautiful breaking water act as a lovely leading line, and then these staggered rocks leading us to the horizon, and then ultimately as well to that beautiful lighthouse, and this slight bit of sea haze that's just shrouding that lighthouse really is the cherry on top for me, and I'm absolutely delighted with how this particular one turned out. I think it's a really good representation of the scene, and one that I was absolutely delighted to finalize in post. So onwards we go, my friends.
So we have changed position and I have changed lens. I have put on my 16 to 35, and kind of on this camera it's maybe like, I don't know, 20 to like something, and the intention is I want to just get nice and low towards these rocks that have been, you know, revealed by the tide, and I just kind of want to capture a grand kind of sweeping vista. So that's the intention. So I'm going to put the bag down, most likely put the 3-stop on because it's still kind of bright. You want to be, you know, potentially at around a second or so, half a second if possible. And of course then I will rearrange my tripod. So I am going to amble out probably to about here and we'll get shooting. So if any of these particular pictures turn out to be any good, I am going to pop them up on the screen for you now. But before we do that, we're going to set up a time lapse and see if that works. So before we look at any photographs, you're going to look at a time lapse. So there you go, let's get going. Oh, there's some nice patterns in the sand here. Maybe we'll photograph those as well. You gotta love a good pattern. All right, let's go.
So as we meander our way through the next set of images, I kind of bounce between black and white and color here for these next 5 pictures that we're going to look at, purely because I want to, learn more and get better at processing in black and white, and then 2, I obviously enjoy the nice contrast between the black and white images and the color images. And for this particular one here, I felt like it was a much stronger black and white image, purely because the whitewash that's in that foreground really acts as a wonderful kind of counterbalance between that and the sky, and then those deep tones in the rocks themselves. And then moving on to the second color image, this is just a bit of a down low, kind of looking through the frame as the whitewash comes towards us and pulls away from us. This image is a blend of a few images, just because I wanted to fill that frame with the whitewash and that's ultimately how I did that. And then the next image, again in black and white, I actually really like this particular one. For me, it's a good balance of chaotic movement and then that kind of stagnant rock that's in the frame too. And I'm super duper delighted with the tones and how this one looks and feels. And then again, in contrast, the color in this particular image just has that sweepingness that I really enjoy about it, and then cropping it to a 16:9 as I did here just helps narrow the focus of the frame and really helps kind of bring us through the image. And then lastly, this particular image is just a kind of an abstract kind of vibe. It's the same rock that we were just looking at, but just shot a little wider, but then with this, you know, obviously a lot more water kind of crashing over it. I think this was shot as about 2 seconds, and I really love that kind of extra ethereal feel that is throughout this image. And of course then that stark contrast between the dark tones in the shadows and then the beautiful bright tones in those highlights. Really happy with how this set turned out.
So folks, I really hope you enjoyed those pictures, and you know, it really was quite reminiscent of our Algarve kind of adventure days when I was consistently down by the sea. And you know, as I was shooting those pictures that you just seen, it really was quite striking that even the very smallest of kind of frames that you can see, even if it's just like the edge of a rock, you get all these beautiful cascades of water as it comes up and over, and it gives you such wonderful opportunities to play around with shutter speed and all these kinds of wonderful things. And it's just so wonderful, and it's one thing that I've said many times before and will probably say many times moving forward, is that it's such a consistent draw for me to photograph the ocean. I really love it, because while you may not get the grand kind of epic sunset that you may have envisioned in the first place, there's always something to photograph, and using motion to really help emphasize that kind of vision. But I promised one picture of the lighthouse, and we are getting a beautiful haze further on down, and I've got my 100-400 in all the way out to 400. And I have it in my mind, I want to see, like, you know, like the beam of light in the fog. And so if this picture turns out to be any good, I'm going to pop it up on the screen for you right now.
And then finally we move on to that lighthouse frame. I'm really happy how this one turned out as a surprise to me, and my post-processing when I was flipping through the images, I was like, oh, that one's actually not so bad. I really like those kind of diagonals that the rocks are creating as a frame around the lighthouse, and then of course being able to capture that beam in the sea haze as well is an absolutely wonderful added bonus to the frame too. It helps really kind of pull you through the frame, and I really like that about this image. So overall, a wonderful way to end, you know, this session of photographs, and I'm really happy with how this particular one turned out and how they all turned out. So wonderful to be back photographing the coast again, and here's to many more.
So folks, I really hope you enjoyed this week's video. I had an absolute blast taking the photographs that we looked at today. And even though I didn't do a great deal of talking while I was photographing the kind of main bulk of the kind of images that you would have seen, for me it was just such a decompression kind of defrag that I go into, and I love that kind of zen moments that I find myself in when I photograph like that, and it's such a wonderful thing. Anyways, I am not going to ramble too long because this video is probably massively long as it stands, and I'll just leave it off by saying that this week's video is sponsored by Orla and myself. If you are any way inclined to look at my website or any of the kind of workshops that I have on offer, you're most welcome to find in the description box links to all of that fun stuff, and I will say no more. But for now, we are going to just enjoy the rest of the evening. So yeah, fun times. But for now, as always folks, if you liked the video, do please hit that like button. And of course, if you fancy following along for more adventures like this one, you are most welcome to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I'll see you all on the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Cheers.